Hi friends, Knife Detector here, and as you guessed it, I'm coming to you with another knife video. And like I like to do in some of my videos, is my videos are accompanied with stories. So I do tell stories from time to time on how I acquired the knife, or a deal I made, or something to that effect, just to give you some history on the knife. And sometimes I talk for a little while just to give you a chance to identify or guess what knife I'm holding in my hand at this time. So, in any case, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get you off the hook there, and I'm going to show you what this is. I want to also thank all my current subscribers, and if you like knives, then in my channel, I mostly do videos on vintage knives, but occasionally I see a modern knife and that I see that's very unique, and I feel like I have to make a video on that one too. So my channel is a library of knives. Knives that I consider unique or utilitarian. You might see a knife in my channel that your grandfather had, or your dad had, or your mom had, or grandma, and you lost track of over the years. And you may have some questions about. You may find it in my channel. So what do you think it is, guys? Some of you guys already know. Look at that. It is a Case 6265 SAB. This is a two-blade knife. I estimate this knife is probably from the 1940s. Check out that rich amber color in that bone, guys. That's really what drew me to this knife. This particular scale right here, this side of the knife, is just beautiful, that amber bone color. And over here, as you can see, bone ages differently on either side sometimes, or most of the time, and that's a darker color right there, but still very rich color. So another couple of features about this knife is the blades itself. They do have so much wear, as you can see. Somebody really used this knife. I believe it still has its original length, but it's been sharpened a lot. You can tell by that elbow bend there, that curve right here, right along here, which this knife was probably used a lot for whittling, and it was sharpened quite a bit. Carbon steel, really good carbon steel. I'm going to close that blade so I don't cut myself, and I'm going to look at the other blade. This one, check it out. It's really been sharpened almost down to the spine, guys. Check that out. Somebody really used this one and loved this one a lot. They wanted to keep it as long as they could. And I see the love in that knife. I see that somebody really enjoyed this knife, used it a lot. And that's really what draws me to knives. It's that history element, that use, that feeling you get when you hold it in your hand, that somebody used this as a tool. Somebody used this in their life, and somebody put a little bit of themselves into this knife too. So let me tell you how I got this, and I'm going to tell you how I got the sheath, because they didn't come together. So there's a local flea market close to where I live, about a 20-minute drive. And there's a gentleman there that during this time of year, he comes down, and he is what we call a winter Texan. He comes from up north. I think he said he comes from Wisconsin. And he sells knives, and he sells some silver jewelry as well. And what I like to do a lot of the times is I like to barter or trade. And so I happen to have a knife in my possession. I think it was a Japanese explorer type knife, precise deer slayer explorer, and I asked him how much he wanted for this one flat out, and he said $35. Actually, he originally wanted $40, and I told him, well, it just so happens I have this much, and then I have this knife. Are you willing to make a deal? And lo and behold, I showed him the knife, and he's like, well, it's going to take me a while to sell that one. But he went ahead and he agreed, and so I got this knife for $20 plus another knife. And I think that it was a good deal. Now, this knife does have a lot of wear, but check out that bone, guys. What I may do later on, if I can find a donor knife, I'm going to take this pin off right here, and then I'm going to put the blades from that donor knife in this knife. So I do have future plans for it. Real nice gentleman. I've done 2 such trades with him this year so far, and that way, you know, I like to keep it real. I like to talk to people. We talk knives. I discuss some of the other knives he had. He asked me about some of my knives and so forth. And knives are conversation starters. They're conduits for people to connect and find a similar interest, a like interest with one another. That's why I like knife collecting, guys. Knife collecting is such a great hobby, right? So that's the story of that knife. Now, same flea market, different vendor. Wonderful older lady, probably in her late 70s. Had a few wares, right? And she had some leather wares. And this guy was in really rough shape. It was not shiny like it is now. I did a little polishing on it. This is still in rough shape, but this sheath is probably from the same era as this knife, and they did not go together. But it's still very usable, guys. Very usable. And she told me that her husband was a real life cowboy and that he worked in a ranch for all of his life. And she had old gun holsters that were really beaten up, so I kind of left those alone. But then I found this guy, and I bought this guy for $5, knowing that it was going to go with this knife. So sometimes, you know, some things are just meant to be, right? So I decided to, even though I bought these in two different vendors, put these together, just like so. Wonderful lady. Every time I go to that flea market, I like to give her a look-see and say good morning to her. She's there with her daughter, and they have some wonderful old things. I've bought some not pocket knives from them before in the past, and some silver. Wonderful people. And that's the thing. You go to flea markets, you find like-minded individuals, people who aren't afraid to buy something that's used or that still has a little bit of life left in it but is not brand new. And you know, you talk, and you make connections. And I think that's what life is about. And YouTube is an extension of that. That's why I really value my YouTube friends as well. I want to go ahead and say happy holidays to you guys. I might make a couple more videos in the next couple of weeks. I try to make once a week, but this is my second one this week. I want to say happy holidays and Merry Christmas coming up to you guys. And I want to also say God bless you and thanks for watching. Once again, this is Knife Detector saying stay sharp, my friends.